Greetings from sunny Acapulco. I just finished a little while ago doing my exercises in the pool. And so I decided it was time to say hello to all of the subscribers on my channel. And I wanted to give you an update. Dan and I left for Mexico on September 27th. We were able to go first class, what was really not first class anymore, it's business on American, which was just a great blessing. I had had surgery on my foot the 30th of August. This was the second surgery for Morton's Neuroma, but this surgery did not go well at all because the neuroma was wrapped around the nerve and it resulted in a lot of foot pain when I walked. I didn't realize how impaired I was until I got to Mexico. My dear friend, Marissa Valdez, who is our director of Latin America, had invited us to Mexico City because she knew of some treatments that could help me. Dan and I both had COVID right after the surgery. It was, luckily we had ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and Z-Pak, which Marissa had brought us from Mexico when she came to visit in the spring. And then I was also having trouble with my bladder. So I had three major things going on in my body. And when she invited us to come for treatments, I knew that this is where I needed to be to recuperate. Now, this is my first full day in Acapulco. Up to this time, I've been in Mexico City, and I have three people, two doctors and one therapist who've been working with me. Now, the first doctor was a physio doctor, which means his specialty is chronic pain and nerve issues. My bladder was an atonal bladder, which means it was not functioning properly, and I was retaining urine. I was given the diagnosis of having to cath 4 times a day, and everything in me screamed at the idea of having to do this on a regular basis. So I began treatment with Luz, a physiotherapist, and with Amore. Amore started treating me for my hypersensitive nerves. He described it as my foot. The surgery on my foot was like the epicenter of an earthquake to my nervous system. And my nervous system was so hyperactive, so hypersensitive, that the first night when he attempted to give me propane is a treatment that was developed in 1900. And it was used where they injected propane, which is like similar to what they put in our teeth when we're doing any kind of teeth work. So he began injecting me. And as he began to rubbing alcohol down my calf to the foot, excruciating electroshocks were going through my legs to my foot. I had no idea how sensitive I was and how much trouble I was in. Now, when he did the first treatment of propane, I could only get up to my ankle. It was excruciating. I've always had a lot of pain in my calves. When I would get a massage, I would tell them, please do not massage my calves. It wasn't my blood vessels, as I thought, that were sensitive. It was my nerves were so sensitive. So that began a time of weekly treatments with injections. Sometimes I'd get as many as 60 injections in my legs, my backs, my shoulders, my neck, wherever I was hypersensitive, wherever there was any intense response to pain. Now, in doing this, Luz uncovered the traumas that were in my body. And this is what I want to talk to you about specifically. When I was 16 years old, I was in a tobogganing accident. For those who don't know tobogganing, it's like a sled that's flat, the curves in the front, and 3 to 4 people can ride it. Well, this was when I was living at home and I was out with my youth group, and we were at this, what I would call a gorge. And the young guys that were with me, they were tobogganing down the side of a very steep hill, which was really the side of the gorge. And I was skiing down the road, and I was very comfortable skiing down the road and walking back up again with my skis. And they just kept on saying, Jackie, we want you to come on the toboggan with us. It's great fun. So finally I gave in. Now, this is an example where you know you shouldn't do something, but you choose to go ahead and do it, and there's a consequence to it. As we were going down that steep hillside, one of the guys, because it was full of trees, let go of my leg, and my leg on my right side wrapped around a tree. And I had 3 guys on the toboggan with me and myself, and my leg was holding us all until the ligaments all tore in my knee. And we were able to continue down the side of the hill. Now, I was in such bad shape that one of the young guys, because he played football, he was like, shake it off, shake it off. Well, all my ligaments were torn. So that young man carried me to his house, which was probably at least a quarter mile away. I was much smaller back then. And I was basically laid up at home for about 3 weeks. And then I went back to school and I was on crutches. I would have to scoot up 3 flights of stairs at my high school in order to get to classes. And that was, my parents did nothing else but take me to the doctor, who said, wrap it and stay off of it. And what I didn't realize at the time was that my hip was damaged. Now, when it came time to give birth, when I was 23, my pelvis never stretched. I was unable to give birth. I ended up needing a C-section, developed peritonitis, but my baby's head never engaged in the birth canal. My second baby was also delivered by C-section. And then I began to realize in my later years, not even in my later years, I would be in exercise classes and I could never sit back straight, legs straight out on the floor. I'd always be tilted like this. Dan and I began kayaking when we would go on to the all-inclusives in the Caribbean. And I could never sit in a kayak like this. It would be excruciating pain, and I would have to lay back, which didn't make kayaking much fun for him because he'd have to do all the work. So this was going on. And when I got here and Luce began to examine my body, she was specifically examining my body for former trauma. And when she got to the bladder, which where the 2 C-sections are, she did a lot of work with the bladder. And when we were doing it, I began to realize how much emotion was tied up in my C-sections and in the peritonitis. And I began to weep. I began to forgive the doctors who did not take good care of me. I had to forgive the young men and myself for getting on that toboggan and going down the side of that steep hill with all those trees. I had to do so much forgiveness. And every time I forgave, there was like a release in that part of my body, literally in my hip, when I was forgiving the young men and myself for yielding to peer pressure. She felt a pop that would happen. And she goes, I don't know what just happened, but it was like a bubble popped. So I began releasing. I began speaking to my body and speaking comfort to my trauma, where the trauma was, speaking comfort to my body, telling my body to forgive, that I release forgiveness. I asked my body's forgiveness for how I abused it. I asked forgiveness for the doctors with the C-section that weren't paying any attention to me and resulted in the development of the peritonitis. There was this complete forgiveness. I asked God to forgive me. So on the hip, I had to forgive the young men. I had to forgive myself. I'd ask God's forgiveness because I didn't heed that still knowing that said, don't do this, don't do this. But in my wanting to belong and wanting to be a part of something, I did. I went along with peer pressure and resulted in damage that has followed me my entire life. Now, then they began to work on my side. When I was in the desert, at the time when I was writing the prayers and doing these restorations, I developed, after going to my sister's daughter's wedding aboard a cruise ship, in 2002, I had a major gallbladder attack. I dealt with it, and I went in to see the doctor and they did a test on me and they said, oh, your gallbladder functions perfectly. And so for the next 6 years, I had chronic pain in my side. I would get these sieges of pain. And when I'm talking pain, I'm talking, I had everybody and their brother lay hands on me and pray for me during this season to try to figure out what was wrong with me that I was in such chronic pain. Well, as Luce began to massage me and to begin to check things out, she realized I had total scar tissue. We finally, in about 2009, found a surgeon who understood an overactive gallbladder. And literally, my gallbladder was leaking into my gut. It was leaking onto my liver and onto my intestines. And it caused scar tissue. So I had my whole side with scar tissue. So as Luce began to work that, again, I had to forgive the doctors, these doctors who had failed me. And they failed me in such a major way. I went to 4 gastroenterologists during that season in the desert, trying to get an answer for this chronic pain in my side. Basically, one doctor said, you need to go see a psychologist. I didn't need to go to a psychologist. I know the difference in pain, and it was painful, extremely painful. So God brought in another person to assist me. She was a masseuse, but she was a masseuse that does extremely deep tissue. And when she got to my side and she got to my ribs, she began to work out and release the scar tissue. She had to release the scar tissue that was on my ribs because of an accident I had in 2011 where an automatic door didn't open. My head was turned. I heard the door. I saw the door. What I didn't know is the door stopped right here, and I walked in it, walking very, very fast with a student. I suffered a major concussion and whiplash to my entire body. I dislocated the ribs on my right side. So those ribs had a lot of scar tissue on them, because one of the things Dr. Amori and Luce told me is that I was a very shallow breather. I was a very shallow breather because I couldn't expand my rib cage because of scar tissue. So once again, I had to start treatment, and Luce taught me how to breathe. And literally, she taught me how to breathe. Then she had to teach me how to walk. My walking was very, I had over a year, I had 2 surgeries on my foot. I favored my left leg. I was terribly off balance. I felt like whenever I got up, I felt like I could fall. And so she began working on my walking. And it was like I had forgotten how to walk, heel, toe, heel, toe. And so the first day that I practiced it, it felt so foreign to me. But as I began doing it, I became much more stable on my feet, including all of the physical therapy exercises she was having me do. I had to do exercises with my toes and with my feet to straighten out my crooked toes from the surgery. I had to do all kinds of exercises, strengthening the muscles in my legs, strengthening the muscles in my back and in my neck. I had to do breathing exercises. So every day I was faithful to do these exercises that Luce would give me once a week. And then I would go see Dr. Amori, and he would be doing the infiltrations. And as she would find these places of great tenderness, he would then infiltrate those places with his Procaine. Now, I was facing about 4 weeks ago, I was recognizing that my memory was severely impaired from both the concussion and from COVID. I had a lot of word finding problems. I had a lot of memory problems. And the word I was looking for before Procaine is like Novocaine. And this one Saturday, Marissa and I are sitting at the breakfast table, and we're just sitting there, and she gets a text from a dear friend of hers, a Dr. Paco. And Paco was in town. He only comes to Mexico City once a week, every month. So he was going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So she made 3 appointments for us to go see him. So we went to see Paco 3 times. This is a man who does neural retraining of the brain, cognitive retraining. So the first time I went in, he did 2 different kinds of EEGs with me to sort out exactly where the damage was in my brain. It was in my memory. There were certain things that have showed up that are definitely a part of the ADD that I inherited from my father. Impulsivity. My visual short-term memory is pathetic. Impulsivity is in high risk area. And there were other areas that were in risk. So he set me up with a training, and I do the training every day faithfully. And my cognition is coming back. It was so bad at that point. I had spoken to our representative in India, and I could not remember the books of the Bible. I could not remember people's names. After the first treatment with Dr. Paco, I was able to really understand, and I could remember names that I'd been searching for weeks. So COVID does have a real effect on your memory. I still don't have my sense of smell back. I'm working on my sense of taste. Our good friend Janita in South Africa told me that if I would take an orange and blacken it on a grill or on a gas stove and then eat it, it would begin to restore my taste, and it has. So I did her treatment and it worked well. So basically, I have been in a season of dealing with the chronic pain in my body, and I can't tell you how much of it is gone. I mean, I am not, when you get into pain, when you're in pain for many, many years, there's a tendency you just push past it, which is what I had been doing for years. It's nice not to have to push past pain on my side or pain in my hip. Part of Dr. Amori's treatment for me is he had me do an MRI of my neck, the cervical region, and of the lumbar region. Now, I knew that I had had a miracle in my lumbar region back in my 70th, 5th year. And my chiropractor, we had an accident, and my chiropractor had to take x-rays, and he was like, these are different. This is not the same back that I started with. So I knew I had a miracle in my lumbar region, which was totally confirmed in the MRI. Lou said my lumbar region looked like a young person's. It was so perfectly formed. The right curve, the right spacing between the discs and the cervix, the little discs. But my cervical region was a different story. And this was because of the impact of the whiplash. So my cervical 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 were all pressing on my my spinal cord, and it was impacting the nerve impulse to my bladder. And so she began a very gentle series of manipulation of my cervix. She said the 4 or 5 of them, they were lodged, they were jammed together. So she was able to get them dislodged and to get them moving. And when she got them moving, it was really quite wonderful, because she's given me exercises to strengthen my neck. Now, I never had a lot of neck pain, but I was developing this problem with my bladder. Those cervical regions are responsible for all of the organs in your body. So again, she gave me exercises, and I have been faithful to do my exercises to strengthen my neck with the very tiny little muscles that we have in our neck. I mean, simple things like doing this and this might not seem like much, but this is strengthening the muscles in your neck. So she has also given me water pool exercises. So I'm going to be doing those every day. I already did mine this morning, and I'll probably do them this evening with Marissa when she comes home from work. Let's see what else happened. He put me on a neuromodulator. I had a tremor, essential tremor in my hand. Now you'll see that there's no tremor now. He put me on amitriptyline and only a quarter of a pill. So it's like 6.25 milligrams. That has stopped the essential tremor. And people were becoming distracted with the essential tremor. You can't be standing teaching and having this hand that doesn't stop. So this has been going on since the accident, and he recognized I needed it. He said, I'll only have to remain on it for about 9 months. So I only have about 6 months to go. And that then he'll wean me off of it. He also put me on another neuromodulator for my irritable bowel. I had a terrible problem with every time I ate food, I'd get sick. I'd be belching all the time. I had all kinds of gas. I couldn't sleep well because of my stomach issues. So he dealt with those too. And again, these are medications that will not have to be taken all my life. It's just as my nervous system calms down. It was, I knew when I had to step away from the Grace Corps that I was really in trouble. I had such severe fatigue. I had terrible circles under my eyes. And you're seeing me right now with no makeup on except eye makeup and my lipstick. I wasn't sleeping well. I had the problems. I mean, I couldn't go to sleep. That essential tremor in my hand would take so much time to calm down at night. So it would stop moving so I could go to sleep. There were so many things that were hindering me. And I knew when the Lord quickened me and Dan that we had to get to Mexico, that this was critical for my restoration. I had no idea how much the Lord was going to restore. Now, the major amazing part of this is God never does anything without having a plan for everyone that you're going to come in contact with. So with Luce, which was very, very interesting, Luce, she told me, she goes, you have taught me so much. And I'm thinking, what am I teaching this young girl, this young woman? She's in her 20s. And when I asked her finally, it was our second last and no one was around. Amori was usually there, or Marissa. And she said, you've taught me to trust my hands in what I'm feeling. She goes, I've never had a patient, especially one your age, who has responded so to therapy and to everything that I'm doing. It's just everything I have you to do. Your body responds like a 15-year-old. And I know that's because of the prayers of all of my dear friends who have been praying for me. And she goes, I've really learned to trust myself. And I'm recognizing I have healing in my hands, which she definitely does. So I was able to really pray for her, that she would grow in that gifting of healing that is in her hands. She literally feels her hands get hot as she's ministering to people on the table. She's the gentlest masseuse I have ever worked with. Then Paco. Paco was amazing. Paco is this doctor. He's an internist who is studying to be certified as a neurocognition specialist. And it turns out Marissa had, when she had seen him, she had told him, she was like, you need to watch Jackie's videos. And he had started watching my videos. And he's a man with an incredible calling on his life. So the first time we went, I got to know him and he told me about, he had watched the videos. The second time we went, Marissa was or maybe it was the third time, would be in a month ago. We prayed for him and his situations. And he was very, very open to prayer. And when we were done and I was to pay him, he said, no, I'm going to do this gratis. So the gratis was doing a complete cognitive evaluation, the 3 treatments, the 3 times I went in for treatment, and setting me up on a cognition program that he had to pay for daily. So when I went back this time, we mainly, as I was wearing this little, I think it's called a neuromodulator cap, or probably not, neurostimulator or something. The first time I wore it, I could remember the next day, my memory came back. So And he began, as I'm wearing this, and you wear it for 45 minutes. We went over my results. He explained all my results to me. And then we began talking about his gifting. And it ended up every time I was there, I would pray for him. And I would release, and I would give him wisdom. And it was the most amazing 3 hours. And it was very interesting because the first time I went on, I think it was a Tuesday, when I knocked on his window because he wasn't answering the doorbell, his response to me was, when he called, he said, "You canceled." Now, I did not cancel, but the enemy canceled and did not want me there. So I was able to have this incredible time with Paco. I told him that if he needed answers to questions, just call me. I took his phone number down. I really want to work with this man because I know God wants him in his ministry to work fully, because he's dealing with all of these people, these young people with ADHD, with all kinds of mental illness, and helping them get their brain back. People with strokes, people with injuries like I had, COVID, recovered. It's really quite remarkable. There's one thing I forgot to tell you. When I came, I had 6 infusions. I had them with Dan the first week he was there because he also had COVID. He looked horrible. He looked so aged. And I was like, "You need these infusions too." And he was like, "Oh no, honey, I don't need them." And I'm thinking, oh yes, you do. You absolutely need your treatments, because I can see what you look like. I can see the fatigue on you. I know what has happened to you from this COVID. And so he received his treatments, 3 treatments, and then he left. We had also had a weekend in Acapulco during that time. So I had the first 3 treatments that he had also was a combination of this Sesquera, something like that. I never got the name, it's in Spanish, and Procaine. And Sesquera, what it does, it stimulates the mitochondria, the energy producer in the body. And so I had 3 of those. And then after that, I had 3 more treatments of Procaine and vitamin C infusions. So these helped me tremendously in overcoming the fatigue. I don't know if you've had COVID, if you can get vitamin C infusions in your area, try to get them. I really recommend it. I'm not certain if Procaine therapy for chronic pain is available in the States. I haven't pursued it, but this is where God arranged it. Not only did he arrange it in every way possible, I mean, to think that we were able to get business class for $100 more than economy. Now, when I'm leaving, I'm going home, I'll be home on the 15th of December. The Lord told me when I finished treatment, I could have 2 weeks in Acapulco. I finished treatments on Monday. So now I'll have 2 weeks in Acapulco, swimming and enjoying the sun and the salt air, which I know will be very restorative for me. I slept nearly 12 hours last night, to give you any idea how restorative salt air is with me. I will return home. Now, flying out of Mexico City one way to do business class was going to cost me nearly $800. But if I flew out of Acapulco, it was the exact cost of the ticket that I had canceled. And it's going to take me 2 days to get home. I'll have an overnighter in Dallas, and then I'll fly on to Charlotte. But I'll be able to fly business class again, which to me is just so remarkable that God blessed us with business class. He's also blessed me with a delightful young woman who determined this year that she was going to donate to our ministry, but to us directly as gifts. Her donations paid for a large percentage of my treatments. It's just been remarkable how God has orchestrated this. Now, one of the things that was such a delight about being in Mexico City is I love being in foreign cultures and being with people and exploring the wonderful old city and seeing the houses and these beautiful gates. And once in a while, the gates open and there's gorgeous gardens inside and these walled homes. You know, I was living in San Angel, and this is a very old region. This is where the people of Mexico City used to go, because it's a little bit higher in the summertime for their vacation homes. But the city, because there's, I don't know, 10, 20 million people live there, spread out and engulfs San Angel. So I'm living in this place with these gorgeous homes. And I got to experience taking Didi's, which is a form of Uber. And I took it down to Polanco, where I would have my treatments with Luz and Amore. I took it to the dentist because I had missed my dentist appointment twice because of COVID. I took it to the masseuse. I took it to another masseuse and nail person. Because of costs, I was able to do my nails let's see if I can bring them in Mexico. And I've been able to grow my nails, which I've never done before. I had my hair cut while I was here. Can't see it now because I've been swimming and I just pulled it all back. Having massages. I mean, I really pampered myself in so many ways. So I want to thank you all for your prayers, for your love. And I'm going to start doing videos again on iniquity and sin and transgression, so we can understand why we have to do the deep repentance in the courts of heaven to deal with the iniquity in our bloodlines. I want to thank you. I send all of my love. God bless you.